Welcome back to another MAVSL recap video. All right, we'll be covering round 5 this week. Some interesting games. There was only 4 games on this weekend, so it was a bit easier to catch them all.
Yeah.
They were unfortunately all a little bit one-sided. A couple interesting results which will influence the table, but we're getting towards the sort of end of the season, so we'll be looking at sort of how that top 4 is shaping up. It's pretty much set in stone.
I think our predictions are pretty spot on.
Yeah, my predictions might be flipped at the moment, looking at the semi-final matchups for the bronze and the gold. I think they'll be the other way around. We'll get into those.
I think mine will be the other way around as well.
Yeah, so
Welcome back.
welcome back. We'll jump right into it, into our sort of the women's side. First with the WA Steel and the Canberra Heat. This was a 4-1 game to the WA Steel. They were both teams were very effective on their power play usage. For those that are new to the format, those are the points that are worth 2. You get 9 points, 9 power play points available to you.
Yeah. Throughout the whole match.
Throughout the whole match. And WA Steel won 6 of them and Canberra Heat won 5.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good, being over that half mark for those points that are worth double. So you get that increased efficiency and risk from those. They were both very effective in that. No bonus points. No bonus points.
No, none. But interesting that the Canberra Heat got, so as Alex said, the 9 power play points but of the whole match. But when they double it, it shows here that it's 10, or it's maximum of, what is that, 18. So Steel won 12, Canberra Heat won 10, but the scores were still pretty one-sided except for the first set and the 5th set.
Good on Canberra Heat. Actually does a bit of damage to WA Steel because it does hold them off from running away with the top spot on the women's ranking. They're very attainable in terms of other teams taking that from them, given that they also have a bye next week.
Yeah.
So they will not be in first place next week at the conclusion of the final round.
No.
I believe.
Very unlikely they'll hold the top spot like they do at the moment. But we mentioned this a couple of weeks back where teams are going to be rewarded if they are disciplined in these quote unquote easier matches. And we sort of see it here where a few of the teams from today did not collect their bonus point where they probably should have.
Yeah, those WA Steel women, even though they dropped a set in the end, were 2 points away from getting that bonus point because the other sets were a bit one-sided. On the men's side, though, the WA Steel Canberra Heat men's, that was a 5-0 win.
Yeah.
This Canberra Heat is a lot of development.
Yeah, super young team.
And that's a hard matchup to come up against, a very refined team in the WA Steel that's been at the top of the ladder for so many years.
And the previous champions.
And they did a bit of a walloping. They got the bonus point.
Yeah.
They won a lot of those power plays. They won 6 out of the 9 power play points available to them. That means they got 2 out of 3 every time, which is a very tough ask, but very efficient.
Where that puts them on the ladder, because they were, disciplined and they went out and they didn't, we see this a lot in volleyball where you play a weaker opponent and you sort of drop to their standard just a little bit. They didn't, and now they're in a position where it'll be unlikely for any team to catch them in the top spot. So next week, the Pirates and the Steel have a bye, but the other teams all have play. But statistically, it is impossible for anyone to grab that top spot off of the WA Steel.
Because in terms of this format, the championship ranking points that are available, the most you can get if you win 5-0 with a bonus point is 11 ladder ranking points, and they're out by more than 11. So
they're 13 points ahead of the Adelaide Storm. So even if Adelaide Storm, which they probably will, 5-0 the next week, then they're uncatchable.
Yeah.
So they've locked in first place. They've got the 1v4 semi-final, which they're probably pretty chuffed about.
So it'll be interesting to see how those look based on those ladders. They probably have a good matchup.
Yeah.
We can jump across to the men's now, New South Wales Phoenix, Queensland Pirates game. This was also very one-sided, a bit of difference in the Queensland Pirates lineup.
Yeah. Missing a few big players, but not necessarily needed for this match.
Yeah, Marcus Ferguson shifting to Libero, Kieran Ivers shifting to pass hitter.
Yeah.
Just a couple different things, but they're all very versatile players and they're all very good.
Not unfamiliar. Neither of those players actually play Libero for their club teams. So you can just switch them out. It's funny, both those players probably have the least experience in libero compared to pass hit. So, but both those players incredibly versatile and really, really good. So the Pirates, 5-0, collect their bonus point. Very underwhelming usage of the power plays in this match. Only 4 total for the Pirates and only the 3 for the Phoenix. Which, we don't have the stats available for this one, but I'd be interested to see when and where those were played. I didn't catch this.
Who was getting the usage in those points would probably be nice to see without a Mitch Tully playing. With Tyler Nix no longer in the team, I believe he's gone overseas, but Sam Pittarino still had a pretty high usage by the eye test in that game.
Yeah.
Because that is probably how their system runs a little bit. They do a lot of that stuff and kind of rudder through the middle. Had a bit of a showing. So they'll be just trying to figure it out for finals now that they have a bye as well next week. So they won't be playing in that final round.
They're all locked in. Currently they're sitting second on the ladder with 35 championship points, but
they are up the game on the Canberra Heat and the Melbourne Vipers who had a bye this week. So they'll will probably fall down that ladder.
But if you're looking at the ladder now, we'll throw it on the screen. The Adelaide Storm and the Melbourne Vipers on 26 and 25 points respectively. So if both those teams 5-0 next week and get the bonus point, Queensland will go down to 4th on the ladder. They won't drop out of finals. It's pretty much impossible unless there's one scenario that Alex and I is curious to see whether it would happen. Let's put it that way. If the New South Wales Phoenix somehow stump the Melbourne Vipers and reverse sweep them 5-0, they could sneak that 4th spot and push the Vipers out of finals contention. Very unlikely, but
New South Wales Phoenix do have an all-star cast that they could possibly bring, but
we
they're all
seen
unavailable.
them.
We haven't seen them.
Arash Desange is on the list, but I don't think we've seen him all season.
No, so
maybe it'd be a good time to pull him out if he's around.
To try and get that.
Yeah, but the women's game in Queensland and New South Wales, Queensland Pirates versus Phoenix was a lot closer, being 18-17, 17-12, 17-15. So the New South Wales Phoenix, like right there, just about every single set, but just couldn't close it.
This is probably the one game from this weekend I'd really recommend watching. Maybe Queensland Pirates were slightly off their game at points that let Phoenix hold on so long.
Yeah.
But it was pretty good to watch, like very close. As we spoke last week as well, a little bit of investigating on evenness of attack, how even the distribution is through players. New South Wales Phoenix were actually they had 2 players doing a lot of the work, but Matuina Gibbons, very great player.
Yeah.
Was hitting a lot of that team's usage with 38 total attacks.
Which is a lot.
They didn't have a whole lot of usage through the middle, but that was just a lot of usage through one player. Maybe that was due to their reception being not so positive.
22% overall, which is fairly low compared to the Pirates were only passing at 27%.
Yeah.
So I guess that's more of an out-of-system sort of game, which it shows looking at the statistics for the outside hitters, all 4 of them across, or all 6 of them from both teams are mostly above 20.
Yeah. A good way to gauge how teams are playing off serve, receive, and reception is looking at their stats after positive and negative receptions. Queensland Pirates were probably one of the best teams I've seen statistically this year at 68% kill efficiency on positive reception.
Yeah.
So that's very high. That's very good. That's where teams would want to be. They just weren't at that positive reception mark very often.
Yeah, no.
Would want to see that bump up a lot. It was at 27%. You want to see that upwards of 50 or higher. Because then on first attack after a negative reception, they were down at 39%. So not so effective in that out of system.
And if you don't understand any of that, that's okay. Like it basically just means that when they pass well, they side out far easier, which is like obvious to think about, but having that like statistic there saying like, all right, how good are we actually at siding out when we pass good versus when we pass bad? You still want to have a decent statistic for when you're passing bad, but it goes to show that the middles for Queensland Pirates are being rewarded when they do pass well. Scarlett Rudder having 8 points and 13 attempts at 62% is pretty good.
Sophie Ballard being able to get 8 opportunities to attack. Unfortunately, a slightly lower kill percentage, but still getting involved in the game makes it so much easier for your outsides.
Being present
in every system.
Being present is arguably more important than actually, getting kills is handy, but being present as a middle and having the opportunity to be run off good passing is really handy.
There were a few rotations in this game as well that it's interesting to look at, that the teams 100% will be looking at video about where they struggled. So like for the Queensland Pirates, when their setter was in 4, maybe slightly unusual to be so efficient, they were positive 8 on their points when the setter was in 4.
That's rare to see.
That is rare to see. It's normally one of
it's probably the second weakest.
Second worst. Usually setter in 1 is very tough to side out from because it's against a very strong block. It's setter doing a lot of movement, and then setter in 4 is usually a negative because the setter's front court, so usually they're a weaker blocker. Usually they're doing a lot more work with fewer attackers because you only have the 2 front court options.
Yeah.
But they were somehow still very positive in that and very even across the board in their other rotations.
I didn't see this match. You saw this. I saw the end of it where New South Wales lost to a golden point. They'd like served their way all the way back. Maybe that was the 4th set. And then missed the serve. But something that I read the other day, and this like we have to check the validity of this, but it sort of makes a bit more sense that pos for that position 4 rotation makes a bit more sense to be a bit more dominant there, just for the utilization of slides in the women's game compared to the men's game. But if you compare to the other side, rotation 2, having positive 8 for the New South Wales Phoenix women. Again, an interesting statistic nonetheless. But then, you can really see here, well, maybe you guys can't, but we can sort of read it out, is rotation 5, so that's when the set is in 5, minus 11 for the New South Wales Phoenix. Yeah,
that's likely where the Pirates would have their setter in 4, and they're playing the Phoenix when their setter would be in 5 because they would lag behind that one rotation spot. There just must have been some unfortunate matchups there. Yes, I did see a couple of runs. That was a lot of that stuff. I think Scarlett Rudder was probably the middle in that slot as well. So there was just a lot of
those. And when you're looking at passing numbers that are fairly low, like the 27 and 22%, it probably means both these teams are very, very strong at serving. So when you do get stuck in those rotations, it can often just be those rotations that maybe rely on a little bit better passing that you're just not passing, and so it's much harder to side out in. Again, we always go back to it. Really important to have footage along with statistics. I've said it 2 weeks in a row now. Don't be like me. Actually watch the games. We catch it on in our next episode. We were playing all weekend in a tournament. So
and a little bit of a critique. The SBS broadcast was very hard to find.
I tried to find it. I could not.
Impossible.
Yeah.
I watched this game actually after it had finished, so it was uploaded as a recorded version. But a few people have said that the live broadcast wasn't able to be found on the website. It is sometimes very hard to scour that website to find the live sports broadcast for volleyball.
Especially when it's not a particularly big sport. It's not going to show up on the top. You have to scroll down a little bit. But everyone can post links to Instagram now, so I'm wondering if the Oz Volley Instagram could do that. The other thing we'd like to mention as well is we would love the Oz Volley or the Mahindra Australian Volleyball Super League Instagram page to not just post results on their stories, post it on the actual page. We were busy on the weekend, we couldn't watch all the games, but I would still love to open up Instagram and see the results there rather than a story that's expired. So if anyone's listening to this could let them know that I think that would be just a better way to do it. Just so we can have it there for the regular fans that want to just open up. A lot of the club teams and a lot of the international leagues that I follow, they just post like every day and it's just the league results. So I don't have to go and watch every game or don't have to scour a website. I can just,
go to the website and click through their gallery of what are the results.
I could just go to their Instagram and it's there. So just like, but yeah. Or you can just listen to us and we'll tell you the results every week.
Yeah. And we'll tell you how our Final Four predictions are shaping up. Because we did have, for myself on the men's side, I had the gold medal match I thought was going to be Queensland versus the Vipers. But based on these teams and how the ladder will probably finish, semi-final might be Vipers versus Steel, and I think they lose that matchup. That's a very tough matchup for them. It didn't go well for them earlier this season, and the Steel are so effective. And then the Queensland versus SA is probably the other semi. If I'm getting my predictions right there, which I didn't get these predictions right, but hopefully I get the semi-final ladder right.
Yeah.
SA has been real effective when they've had their full team there, and if Queensland's missing a few guys or...
Yeah, we don't really know where Mitch Tully's been. Maybe he's just not been needed the last couple of weeks, but if he plays, he'll be real handy in the finals.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said about Vipers and Steel, like Vipers won earlier in the year, but we know how deadly it is for teams to lose in the season and come back to the finals like even hungrier for that. And as we mentioned, the Steel neither team had like an amazing game that day. So it'd be interesting to see like how much further those two teams have grown when they most likely, based on what we're seeing, will match up in the semi and go from there. SA Steel, I don't know. I gave you a bit of grief about these predictions because I think mine's literally flipped. Oh, no, mine's not quite flipped. I got SA Queensland for the gold and Vipers Steel for the bronze, which I think is impossible because of the semi-final matchups.
Yeah.
So yours is more likely to happen based on the results.
Due to being impossible because of
the semis, yeah. But I think mine is definitely impossible.
Yeah.
I at least think my prediction of SA in the final, I think SA will make the final. They're looking really sharp at the moment. And they're looking they have the most, surprisingly actually, I think they have the most depth out of most teams. The fact that they can just reach into the bench and get like a Finley Bennett.
I mean, the next player up there, Williamson, their libero, stepped up
and was
awesome. Incredible. Didn't play this weekend, but the week earlier.
And also like between your three outsides, you've got Cooper Peacock. Sorry, 4 outsides, you've got Simon Coate, Cooper Peacock, Will Mercer, or Nathan Roberts. That's ridiculous.
All very consistent, high-quality players.
Very, very high-quality players.
And they are also probably going to tear up the women's side because I think they are still shaping up to be the top prospect on the women's side maybe.
Yeah, I agree.
Up there, they might finish top of the ladder. If they go well this final round, they'll slot their way up there.
Yeah.
If they have a good result. But
I think they will.
Looking so efficient.
My gold medal match predictions for the women was Vipers in Queensland. And my bronze was WA and SA. I reckon that is dead flip. Looking at the season now, I think I should have put WA, SA for the gold and Vipers Queensland for the bronze. Again, I don't know if the semifinals will support that. I think it will actually end up being either Vipers and WA or Queensland and SA, looking at the standings. But I'm pretty happy with that. I think the women's side were a lot more accurate on those. Both of our predictions are possible in terms of the semi-final matchups. Yeah. We nailed the 4 teams though.
It comes down to volleyball. We complemented the international leagues, like Plus Liga, the finals are a best of 3 or 5 series.
Yeah.
But unfortunately in this league, it's just win or lose. So as soon as it gets to semi-finals, you either win or you lose. And the tournament season, done.
It is a real shame. I would love, genuinely, I would love to see WA and SA women play a best of 3 series, play each other 3, like best of 3 sort of matchup. Same with the men. I would love to see SA and WA go at it for a couple rounds and see just what happens, or even the WA Vipers. See that happen. Who did you have for the women again?
So I had Vipers versus SA being that gold medal match, and WA versus Queensland being the bronze.
I think that's a more likely outcome than my prediction.
It just depends on the Vipers. WA, I think, will match up in the semi against each other, maybe in that 2v3 slot.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, I mean, every team will need to keep on their toes for this final round as we go into the final round of the season. we will tell you where to watch these games. So Canberra Heat will be versing Adelaide Storm at 3 p.m. In Lynham, Canberra. You can watch that one live on YouTube. That's going to need to be real refined from the Adelaide Storm on both sides to not drop points to the Canberra Heat. But Canberra Heat are at the point in the season where they're just there to play, get experience, maybe cause some little upsets here and there.
It's one of the things where Adelaide Storm are in a position where they will probably – they're locked in. They could lose this match 5-0, 0-5, and they'll still be locked in. But if they do well, like they need to take, what is that? They need to take 3 sets. So if they just win the match at a minimum, they'll be top of the ladder and they'll have the easier semi-final.
Yeah.
So probably well within their rights to go and play this match real hard and put themselves in a better position for semis.
And then the SBS On Demand round is Melbourne Vipers versus New South Wales Phoenix at 5 p.m. That one local for us at MSAC Arena in Albert Park. Great little venue. We'll be there watching, I think, this weekend.
We won't be commentating this time.
No, because it will be live on SBS.
Yep.
So
we haven't been invited yet. Maybe next time.
So as we spoke about that, for the men's side, they just need to not lose 5-0 by more than 20 points and they'll be secured into their top 4 slot.
Well, yeah, no, even if they lose 5-0 and they don't, statistically, New South Wales have to get the bonus points to upset. That would be a great all-time upset.
So
for the
New South
AVL.
Wales bring this All-Star
If they bring the All-Star team,
they're there.
Yeah, I would love to see a Rash.
Or just play out his skin. I'd love to see those boys.
I just want to see him play. I want to see a Rash go up against Sando. I think that would be because they're teammates. Well, they used to be teammates.
I've had that national team camaraderie,
Yeah.
team rivalry at MAVSL.
It would be a really entertaining match if that happened. It's probably not going to happen though. We're probably going to see a 5-0 in the way of the Vipers, but one can hope for a little bit of a spicy match, especially because we're going to be there and we're going to watch. The women's side is a bit more. I think the New South Wales Phoenix can cause an upset because they're so close week in, week out with all the results they've been getting. But I think the Vipers, we haven't seen the squad list yet, but if they're bringing in the full squad, like Katie Tipping, Eliza Cully-Hines, and the roster like that, although I am aware that there's some injuries floating around. Louise Bates has a bit of a calf injury. There's an ankle injury from Emma Lim, I believe. But Vipers is probably the second. Vipers women's team is probably the second deepest squad.
Yeah, they have a lot of depth, especially specifically at that outside position.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of strong, talented
Like Gwen
outsides.
Thornton can just come in. Alicia Basiri can come in and just be dominant. Like they've got a lot of options.
As
there.
they have in points of games this season.
Exactly. So I think they'll be fine. I think they'll take it fairly easily, but they statistically, if they 5-0, they will put themselves in the best possible position. I do think Adelaide Storm will win 5-0. So I think the best the Vipers can do is probably second on the ladder after this week, which honestly puts them in a position to play the Steel or the Pirates. I think they probably prefer to play the Pirates, but statistically, I don't think they will be able to.
More likely it'll be against the Steel,
which is pretty rough.
Yeah, because, Vipers do have some very talented middles, but Steel have been able to activate their middles a lot more consistently.
I think Steel
that's probably there.
Steel has got the best middles, I think, in the league at the moment. They're playing ridiculous. Their stats are outstanding every week. Elise Hislop had 11 blocks last week? I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but a silly amount of
more
blocks.
than whole teams have
Yeah.
on her own back.
Genuinely more than entire teams.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 6 blocks. 11 sounds too much. But maybe it was 11 because it sounds like it was. Yeah. An incredible blocking work rate from her. So yeah, those are the matches. You can catch them. Definitely catch them. I think we're in the business end of the season for sure. Finals are a couple of weeks away. And it's unfortunate we don't see all the teams play this weekend. So the WA and who's the other team? WA and
Pirates have the
have
the bye this week.
So they're done until finals.
Yeah.
But luckily, both teams are playing finals. So
Yeah.
so they're
not sitting there watching from the outside,
hoping,
crying in the rain. They're locked in. They get to rest, maybe work on some stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe they're watching, just seeing who they're going to match up against.
Well, they'll have to because
So,
this round 6 is going to determine who plays who in the final. So for those who don't know, it'll be 1 versus 4 and 2 versus 3. So you're really getting rewarded if you can slingshot yourself into that one position. So I believe it's only on the women. Yeah, the
women's side, it's up for grabs.
But the men's side,
no shot.
No, it's none whatsoever. So WA Steel have played really well all season on the men's to secure that spot. The women's, it's up for grabs. I think Adelaide will get it.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
They probably deserve it. They've been
working real hard,
there,
and they're playing really, really well.
Over the next week before these final rounds, if you get the chance to watch, we'd probably suggest watching maybe that Pirates Phoenix game that happened this week. If you get a chance, maybe the only notable game this week.
Yeah,
we'll go back and watch round 4. That was probably the best exhibition across the board.
Round 4 was a really good round,
and they're sort of the teams we'll be seeing again in these semi-finals, potentially matching up.
Yeah.
So there's lots of good volleyball that you can still go back and catch.
Yeah. If not, watch this weekend. It'll be good. We hope. All right. That's about it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned rather for our interviews and stuff that we'll be posting throughout the week from AVL players and stuff like that. And next episode, after we do the recap, we're going to do a finals analytics and deep dive into the players that have been playing really well all season and the players to look out for in finals and the roles that they will play and dive into a little bit about what made them the go-to player for their teams and stuff like that. So you can keep an eye out for that in the coming weeks.
Yeah, lots of in-depth analysis to come. We've been looking at those players. So it'll be very interesting to see where they will go now that it's the do or die portion of the season.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. This is Net Talk. Goodbye.